So this is a tarot reading for Taurus for the week of October 7th. We pulled the Devil reversed, the Oracle, which would traditionally be the High Priestess in in the Smith Rider-Waite. And then we pulled the Three of Vessels, or traditionally this would be the Three of Cups. So the Devil reversed, people kind of work with reversals in a variety of different ways. The way that I work with the Devil reversed is that it's like a less intense devil, and because I think part of it is related to self-awareness of when we're in a devil kind of experience, because it deals a lot with brain chemistry and mental health. So I think it's mostly related to when we're self-aware of why it's happening, or maybe it's just bringing up a thought pattern or habit or a form of self-sabotage that you're really familiar with and have been working through extensively. So when it flares back up again or you feel triggered again by it, it's not a surprise. So the more self-aware we are through the process, the quicker it is to work through and not get as caught up in it. So the Devil brings up basically our relationship to shame and our relationship to self-sabotage. So it's less about temptation as something bad, oh no, don't do it, and more about what is our relationship to shame that's feeling oh no, I'm going to do something bad. It's drinking alcohol in and of itself is not a bad thing to do. And it's actually we can't even really ascribe value to alcoholism being bad. It doesn't make you inherently bad or unworthy or lesser person. So all that to say, the Devil shows up whenever we feel triggered by the emotion shame. And our invitation, it's okay, so my psychiatrist has explained it as wagon wheel tracks, meaning whenever we want to rewire an aspect of our brain or change a thought pattern or a habit, we build a wagon wheel track, meaning we do we do the new habit or new thought pattern repeatedly and over and over and over and over and over again until we've built this new wagon wheel track that's deeper than the one we're currently on, because our brain will naturally switch to whatever wagon wheel tracks are deepest. And the Devil's what shows up when we switch wagon wheel tracks, and our brain freaks out because our brain is wired to take us home where we're safe, and to keep us small and safe. Not all of our brain is wired this way, but the strongest part of our brain, our fight, flight, freeze, fawn response, it's really, really loud. I kind of think of it my fire alarm, my smoke detector is really sensitive, and sometimes when I'm cooking and a little bit of heat escapes out of the oven, the fire alarm will go off. Or the smoke detector will go off, sorry, not fire alarm. So the Devil reversed is the smoke detector going off, or the 911 system, or our fight, flight, freeze, fawn response going off whenever we switch wagon wheel tracks. And all we have to do to work through this is understand that this is just our brain thinking we're in danger, and all we have to do to turn it off is remind our brain and explain to our brain I'm safe and I'm okay, and I'm not self-sabotaging myself. Maybe the Devil for you is recently I just started new medication, and for a week and a half didn't go and pick it up, and I really need this medication because it's for endometriosis, but I was in a very subconscious state of self-sabotage of well, I don't want to get better because, or maybe I'm afraid of getting better or not feeling pain, because this medication is to help with abdominal pain related to endometriosis. So it's almost like afraid of the unknown. Not because we don't want good things for ourselves, but just because it's new and different, and that's okay. So what's coming up underneath it, if the devil is kind of what's happening on the surface, what's coming up underneath it is the oracle. And I really love the slow holler's imagery for the oracle because it's so not gendered. So like, traditionally we've got like, there's like a scroll kind of around the pelvis area that's held in the lap of the high priestess that has to do with, it's supposed to represent like the collective unconscious, and I call it like body wisdom, just like kind of like how we know not to eat fruit when it's brown and it's like unappetizing when we see food that's brown, because for a really long time our ancestors would eat rotten fruit and then like eventually figured out like, oh right, if like fruit looks kind of brown, it's rotten and we shouldn't eat that. So there's just that like wisdom in our bodies of like, okay, I won't eat rotten fruit, or like brown food equals like not good. So the usual like symbolism attached to that has to do with menstruation and linking menstruation to intuition with like ancient like groups or tribes that would have menstrual like tents or like circles that they would participate in and receive like wisdom and guidance. And it's not that there's something inherently wrong with those practices, but if we're associating like the oracle or the high priestess with like divine femininity and like menstruation being like a symbol of divine femininity, that like eliminates people who don't menstruate or assumes that all people who menstruate are feminine. So I really love about how instead like the slow holler, well, one, it has this giant ass moon here. So one of the things that I've been experimenting with, instead of using the word feminine, is replacing it with lunar, meaning like receptive, most of all listening. The oracle is really, really good at listening. If we look at their hands, and one of my yoga teachers always says when we're meditating, hands down for grounding and hands up to receive. And we have like the open palms here in the oracle. There's also, yeah, and then again, instead of, at least, well, I don't know if this was the intention of the slow holler, but the way I interpret this triangle here is this is our body wisdom. Like, for example, it's often said that we hold grief in the lungs. I know when I'm triggered or grieving, I find it really hard to breathe and like have like pain at the bottom of my lungs when I'm breathing. But yeah, instead of like menstruation or divine femininity or that I was talking about earlier, I like to think of this triangle and the collective unconscious, just to some collective unconscious, meaning like the knowledge of all of the things that have happened and are going to happen. I like to think of it more as just body wisdom and like our body's natural response to things and how much knowledge we carry in our body, like not eating fruit because it's rotten. So above all, the high priestess or the oracle is an invitation to listen. An emergent strategy, there's this quote, and I have it on my website as well, because this year is a high priestess year, and the quote really reminded me of the high priestess. So I put it on my website to honor that. So the quote goes along the lines of, and I this isn't going to be exact, I'm paraphrasing. I am listening as if everything in the entire universe exists just to teach me more about love. And then Adrienne Marie Brown goes on to list like all of the ways she listens to her ancestors, to her creativity. If you want to see the full quote, it's on the homepage of my website. Or if you, I believe it's on page 8 and 9 of the book, if you have the book at home. But yeah, the high priestess is asking us to listen. And the last card that comes up kind of like for context, what we're learning from all of this is the Three of Vessels. And the Three of Vessels or Three of Cups deals with community. We're learning how to pour our cups into each other's cup, and like take on each other's emotional baggage. So it's kind of like, so the High Priestess of the Oracle is like super inwardly drawn. And the Three of Vessels is like how we share that experience collectively. So like moments of vulnerability with others. So, and maybe that could mean like one of the reasons then why the Devil is reversed is because not only like are you so much more self-aware while moving through it and able to like catch yourself and like, oh, this isn't self-sabotage, like this is actually like, it looks like self-sabotage, but it's actually me rewiring an aspect of my brain, and like upgrading something. But like listening to your body and your intuition as you move through that, and then being able to share it with other people. The Three of Vessels always kind of reminds me of being like, I was like a theater kid in high school, and the Three of Vessels always reminds me of that kind of ephemeral, really interconnected kind of, almost felt like a family, especially like when you're on stage together, that like trust that, you know, the other person's not going to fuck up their line, or if they like do go off script a little bit, that they'll end where somewhere where you can say your next line and it makes sense. So yeah, that's this week. Bye.